Folks, the next time that the Democrats tell you that they want to and need to take the higher ground when it comes to politics, do me a favor. Tell them to kiss your ass. I really mean that. Tell them literally to kiss your ass. I say that because whenever the Democrats come into power, i.e. the presidency, taking over the House of Representatives, which has been a while, taking over the Senate, they seem to act like they're fucking Cinderella, waiting for the prince to show up with a glass slipper so that they can get something done. Okay? Now, true enough, the last time that the Democrats controlled both houses and the presidency, they did get the Affordable Care Act done. But there was a lot of stuff that they left on the table that they should have ramrodded through. Now, for all of us people who think that the Republicans are worthless pieces of shit, which they are, by the way, when they come into power, they basically tell everybody else, fuck you, we're going to do what we're going to do. Now, I say that based on several things. One, in the Senate, when they got control, they told the President of the United States that he was not going to get his pick as far as Supreme Court justice was concerned. And they went so far as to say his nominee would not even get a hearing. That doesn't seem particularly fair, particularly given the fact that they had the majority in the Senate and all they had to do was give the guy a hearing and then vote him down. But basically, they told President Obama, fuck you, we run this. Case in point, number two. And most importantly, last night, in the dead of night, these motherfuckers passed a tax bill that not only did the Democrats in Congress vote against, but the American people overwhelmingly have said that they did not want them to do this. But their donors were calling the shots. And their donors told them, and it's documented, that if they didn't pass a tax bill that benefited them, the donors I'm speaking of now, that the money was going to dry up. And there's one thing about a politician that goes without saying, is that they're in it for the money, and particularly the Republicans. So last night, the Republicans, except for one, the gentleman on your left, all voted for a tax plan that's going to add $1.5 trillion to the national debt. It's going to increase taxes on the poor and the middle class. It basically is going to send the country on its way to bankruptcy. Now, when a Republican tells you that the deficit and the debt must be controlled, which is what they have done for the last 8 years, which is why the sequester was put into place, because they just could not stand that additional debt was going to be added to our national debt. Now, all of a sudden, they don't have a problem with increasing the debt and running mega deficits. Now, when it came to the ACA, the whole country was against them screwing over the Affordable Care Act. And you had Republicans now, that realized that the Affordable Care Act was a good thing. And they rallied and jumped up and down on all of their representatives so that the repeal and replace tactic of the Republican Party failed. And folks, it just barely failed. If it wasn't for John McCain clinging to regular order, things being done in regular order, the ACA would be history right now. And to tell you the truth, the ACA is in serious trouble, but it's still basically there. But when it comes to tax cuts for the rich, the Republicans, no matter how large the outcry was, had no problem. Now, there are five, count them, 5 Republicans that are quote unquote deficit hawks. They're debt hawks. They swore that they would not sign off or vote for anything that increased the national debt. Who are those 5? Well, you have the congressman out of Colorado, and I apologize, his name will come to me shortly. You have the congressman that you see here on the left. You have the congressman that you see here on the right. That's Jeff Flake. You had the congresswoman up in, I believe it's Vermont. You had congresswoman that is up in Alaska. And you had a congressman who was in, or is in, Arizona. I'm talking about senators now. So you're talking about Jeff Flake, you're talking about Lisa Murkowski, you're talking about John McCain, you're talking about, I'm sorry, the guy on the left is Bob Corker. He's a Tennessee senator. You had all of these people. Oh, I forgot about Rand Paul. He's out of Kentucky. All these guys who are quote unquote the supposedly deficit hawks. Well, all but Bob Corker voted in support of this 538-page document that they received approximately 3 hours before the vote was taken on the floor. This goddamn document was so bad, they hand wrote items in the margins. They didn't even want to take enough time to have the bill properly drawn up. So they hand wrote amendments within the margins. And when the Democrats just asked for additional time till Monday so that they could get an opportunity to read the entire thing, they were told no. So basically, Lisa Murkowski got bought off because they put within that tax, quote unquote, and jobs, quote unquote, bill an authorization to drill in the wildlife reserves up in Alaska. Now, she got bought off because her dad had been a constant proponent of allowing drilling up there. So his legacy is what bought her off. Jeff Flake, I don't know what the hell bought him off, because he's not even running for Senate in the up-and-coming elections. Now, maybe he was told that he will not get all the blowback if he decides to run for governor of Arizona, or possibly he's promised some other position within the administration. Susan Collins out of Maine, she got bought off with the promise that they would do something to help the seniors in her state as far as the Affordable Care Act was concerned. Everybody else, oh, and I did forget about the senator from Wisconsin. He basically said that he was absolutely a no, but magically Mr. Johnson became a yes. The only one that had the moral turpitude to stick to his guns as far as the amount of money that was going to be added to the national debt was concerned is Bob Corker. He did vote no. So now, folks, we have a bill coming out of the Senate and a bill already out of the House that has to go to reconciliation. And there is a lot of stuff that has to be reconciled. But I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that deals are going to be struck, and this tax bill, this reverse Robin Hood tax bill, is going to become law. So now when the country starts going into the toilet economically, all of you folks that voted for Donald Trump because he was going to drain the swamp, when in reality all he did was double or triple the size of the swamp, enrich himself and his family, and fuck the rest of us without the grease. Just remember what you did in 2016. I hope to God that in 2018, once the effect of this tax bill comes into fruition, and all these super large corporations get their money, and instead of hiring people and raising wages, they basically reduce debt and declare massive super dividends and increase the pay of their chief executive officers and management teams. Meanwhile, holding wages down, not hiring the people that, quote unquote, we were told were going to be hired. I hope you remember that when it comes to the 2018 election. Because, folks, we are fucked for the next at least 3 years. Even if we can get rid of the Republicans and the Democrats and independents, take over the House and take over the Senate, the effects of this bill cannot begin to be reversed until after 2020, and that's only if and when we can remove the current White House occupant from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So get ready, folks. When the revenue side of our economy starts going into the toilet, and it's just a question of time before it does, and then Paul Ryan gets his way and they start looking at entitlements, i.e., cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting Medicaid, reducing social programs, so that you folks in West Virginia get shafted, you folks in Kentucky get shafted. Oh yeah, because 13 million people are going to lose their health care. So Kentucky, West Virginia, get ready. You people up in Wisconsin, you guys get ready as well. You people in New York, New Jersey, California, when it comes time to filing those taxes and the state and local income tax deduction is gone, don't come crying. You students out there who are taking out student loans and now you can't deduct that student loan interest, don't come crying. For all of you guys who are lucky enough to get scholarships for master's and PhD programs, and now those scholarships are going to be considered income, don't start crying. For all you teachers out there that supported the Republicans, you teachers that have to come out of your pockets for supplies for your students, for various things that previously were deductible, but now which aren't, I don't want to hear any boo-hooing. Folks, we allowed the Republicans to sell us a bill of goods. Well, some of us did anyway. All because, as the people in Alabama say, we cannot, in good conscience, support a Democrat. We would rather support a pedophile than a Democrat. Yeah, and they're saying that. And Alabama, in the future, is going to be known as the pedophile state because this guy's going to get elected. Judge Roy Moore, he's going to get elected. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because the morality, or quote-unquote so-called morality of the people of Alabama takes a second seat to the acquisition of power. And it's a damn shame. But the shame is going to be anybody who cries about what's going on with the country once all of the Republican stratagems come into place. Power in the Senate, the current power that's in the House, the Supreme Court, which is going to be affected for the next 20 to 25 years, and God forbid one of the progressive judges decides that they've had enough and they decide to retire, and Trump is able to get in another progressive judge. You could forget about anything dealing with social justice to have a favorable ruling in the Supreme Court. But as has been said over and over again, elections have consequences, and the consequence of us voting Donald Trump into office, given the Russian collusion, which is being exposed daily, the latest being Michael Flynn flipping on Donald Trump. Hey, we're going to see.